You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Hey there, friends. Today we have Tom Hardwidge from Tall Story Games joining us. Tom is the creative mind behind the adventure game Lucy Dreaming and the highly anticipated Heir of the Dog. These games are not only award nominated, congrats, Tom, but also feature some fantastic pixel art. Paul and I are super excited to chat with Tom today and delve into the gorgeous world of pixel art in games. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Hello. Very good, thank you. How are you?
Great. Happy to be here. It's raining outside. There's no better place to be than in front of my microphone, hunched in front of a computer. And I think both of you and Paul feel that way a lot, right?
Honestly, the weather here, I mean, I'm British, so I'm going to talk about the weather as well. Oh. It's been the nicest day. It's been like Mediterranean kind of sunshine for the last 2 days. It's all going to go horribly wrong tomorrow, apparently. There's a cold front coming in, but it's just been epically sunny and lovely today. So, in your face.
In your face stereotypes.
Yeah, we got one sunny day in like the last 3 years, and I can use it.
I'm talking about it. Unbelievable. I'm so glad you didn't hit us with the I'm just coming at you live from sunny, Wales, or just sunny anywhere.
It's not far away. Yeah,
that's that is. I watch a lot of bike racing. It's all very British centric. Not to mention spending many years there myself, and it's just that, man, do they love that joke? The whole where I'm coming at you from sunny blah blah blah, and it's like
it's like a hurricane just kind of blowing their umbrella inside out. Yeah.
See, it's funny because it's not sunny. Is the entire?
Oh, I get it now. I see what they're doing. That is clever. I'll use that.
Well, we're supposed to have weather I live in Little England. This is Victoria, British Columbia. It's the Little Britain. We've got the double-decker buses and the horse-drawn carriages and people going around trying to do British accents like it's a whole thing.
You added an H to Victoria there. Victoria.
Victoria.
I also love the fact that you've got double-decker buses and horse-drawn carriages. We have Do you think that we guys still have horse-drawn carriages over here? And that's like a. I'm like shit. Is this like I've given away like Santa Claus? No, it's fine. Yeah, we still have them. It's fine. It's all good.
Oh my gosh!
Every third person is dressed like a beef eater. Is our.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're all butlers.
I mean, you do have adorably fancy taxi cabs still. You guys are really clinging on to that.
What, the black cabs?
Yeah.
But then we kind of. That's why I'm speaking for an entire nation. I always kind of like the fact that you've got the kind of the yellow cabs in the States and as well as when I've kind of been over to the States. It's like, ooh, it's the taxis like they're having friends.
I just found out yesterday that Seinfeld wasn't even filmed in New York. It was filmed in LA. They took some shots of New York and then made up the block to look like New York. But I'm just thinking about how many episodes that they're wearing jackets and all this heavy gear, but you can't see their breath. And I never could figure out why. And now I kind of get it.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a hell of an observation.
It's a sham.
Yeah. Total sham.
I wonder what else Hollywood's lying about.
No, they wouldn't.
Apparently all those Marvel movies made up. Who knew?
Oh, a lot of them were filmed right here too.
None of it.
What? You can't even be that's crazy. No, here they film a bunch of the Marvel stuff right here at our
No, they do farm
Castle.
it. You were right the first time. They're definitely farming it.
Oh my God. Yeah, even Deadpool, and the X-Men home and all that was filmed just 15 minutes away from my house. They have peacocks roaming the lands and all that. It's quite fancy.
I love how Canadians are always calling attention to themselves. Like, hey, Mike Myers, you're welcome.
Yeah. Jim Carrey. I mean, isn't he Canadian? We have a few.
Yeah. Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
she's
I actually went to go and see Bryan Adams in concert 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
What?
Yeah. No, I know.
What year is this, man?
You're not trying to get away with it.
I think he's only got like about like sort of 6 hours left in him, so they kind of freeze him between gigs, and they just kind of thaw him out, and he comes in. You can hear his knees cracking, and then they put him back in the big box again and kind of ship him up.
Wow! Now he's singing about the summer of 2029, and it's just the whole world is confusing.
He can't even remember it. Yeah.
Did anybody there get wasted and yell, "Do Robin Hood"?
No, it was surprising. I was when that, because he kind of did. I was expecting that to come on as an encore, and he kind of did it halfway through the gig, and there was you could see the sort of, there was a bit of a split. There was kind of different kind. You've got the sort of the double denim kind of. There were a lot of kind of older people there. It was a sitting down kind of affair as well. They brought around like cups of tea and scones right halfway through, and it was they didn't really, but they should have done. That would have been awesome. But there was kind of mixed reaction. So some people were like, yeah, this I liked Bryan Adams before this, and then there are other people who are just like, yeah, this is what I came for.
Right.
So.
It's got to be hard when you're an artist, because it's like, this is a song you've sang 1,000 times and you're 1,000,000 times and you're tired of it. But the ones that stuck through and stood up on stage and sang the same damn song that made them famous in 1982 are the ones that are still rocking now.
Yeah, the worst thing is going to see like a band or an artist that you really liked kind of when you were younger, and they've got a new album out, and you go there and the entire set is their new album, and by the end of it everyone's just there just like, fuck off. It's like no one wants to hear this. Play the old ones.
Exactly, please. Enter Sandman, come on, do Enter Sandman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bryan Adams wouldn't do that. We
No.
did that. He wasn't.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah.
So okay, let's jump into. I want to have a talk with you guys about pixel art games, because it's interesting to me that both of you are making games in the traditional style. So like I have two people in the modern age that are saying, hey, I'm not going to work in Unity, or I'm not going to do all this 3D stuff. I'm going to do something that starts with a basic square, and I'm going to turn it into something timeless. And to me, this is absolutely fascinating of a choice, because of course I'm giddy. I'm in the happiest time of my life. I'm in the middle of the resurgence of an art form that I have appreciated my whole life, and that for a while there I thought was dead.
You guys, I thought it was dying.
I did. I was so
We're
sad.
keeping it alive.
So tell me a bit about that. Like, what's going on?
That's your classic "do something with it" stance.
Yeah,
Right?
discuss.
Something. Discuss.
So I mean, in terms of the kind of the choice, I mean, I don't know any kind of 3D kind of graphical packages or anything. I toyed about with Blender a while ago when I was at university. I mean, that was like over 20 years ago, and I never really kind of got into kind of 3D stuff. So for me, it was a kind of a practical choice. I've been using Photoshop since I was 15. So again, it's almost 30 years. So like, I'm really familiar with that as a kind of a designer. That's what I use. I'd never really done pixel art before. So I just thought, well, I'll just kind of give it a go. I think I went on, the first thing I did was I went on Google and found a screenshot of Thimbleby Park and just kind of downloaded a kind of PNG of it, just so I could find out what resolution it was. So opened it up and went, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it was 480 by 270. So I was like, okay, I'll stop there. And then just kind of started kind of throwing pixels down. I'm always very conscious of the fact that my kind of way of doing pixel art doesn't feel right, like purist pixel art. So I will quite happily, I don't use gradients or any kind of tools like that. If I'm sort of doing shading on things, I will dither stuff, but I will use tricks that I know in Photoshop in order to kind of do that. So if I'm doing, say, like a wallpaper on a wall, and I've got a flat wall with the kind of the wallpaper on it, and I want to translate that and put that on a side wall so there's a bit of perspective on it, I will turn it into a smart object in Photoshop, and I'll turn the image interpolation to nearest neighbor, which means that it won't kind of try and anti-alias or blur any of the kind of pixels to kind of the nearest sort of, to kind of smooth them. And then I'll just do a kind of a perspective transform on it. So I can tweak that, and it gives a sort of pixel effect. And if I kind of tidy it up again afterwards, that's, if I need to, I can do. But I feel like doing things like that is definitely feels like cheating. But what it seems to have done is created a style that it's weird. I every time I post on pixel art Facebook groups and things like that, I always kind of caveat it. So I'll say, hey, yeah, I know this isn't like perfect. I know it's not a limited color palette, and I know it's not like laying down one pixel at a time, and it's not maybe not kind of purist, but it's here, what do you think of this? No one's ever kind of called me on it. Like I feel embarrassed sort of doing, like it's not like I'm not doing it properly, but everyone seems to sort of go, yeah, that looks quite cool. And a lot of people have said, oh, I really like how you've kind of got pixel art and kind of made it your own style. So it sort of looks modern, but isn't, but and also looks retro, but it's sort of, but without kind of doing the mixing the two. So I know with am I right in saying with kind of Phantom Fellows, you've got kind of gradients and things in there as well. So like with lighting effects and stuff like that, there's kind of a mix of the two. So you've got pixel art, and then you've also got some sort of smoother like lighting effects over the top, which is a particular style. And I've kind of not done that, but it's sort of, that seems to be unusual. I think if people are kind of doing it properly, like they're doing it the sort of old school, they're doing that. Or if they're doing it not so old school, they're kind of doing it slightly smoother. And I'm just kind of doing something in the middle, which sort of just seems to be like making work for myself. But it's like, it just feels right to me. That's the only reason I've kind of done that.
Yeah, no, well, I excitedly was like, right, because I've got a note right in front of me that's like Tom's right in the middle, because I initially, well, I guess I could say until I really like examined your art in your games in preparation for this conversation, I had you marked down as, okay, Tom will kind of represent the purist, and I can kind of represent like the modernized, and we can tackle it from that aspect. Because as you said, when you go to like pixel art specific pages or groups or communities like that is where you realize that people want you to like bleed for it. They're like, hand place every pixel, and if you don't, you're not one of us. And it can feel a little gatekeepy, or at least it feels that way. And then, as you said, Tom, when you actually just post on there, communicate with them, they're just pretty nice human beings for the most part. I mean, add a splash of internet-y in there, but regardless, I'm getting off point. So I started examining your games this morning, and you are exactly in the middle, because I thought you were purist, because from the outside I'm seeing like dithering, which is like kind of maybe like the number one sign nowadays, where it's like, okay, there's no gradients. Like he's actually dithering to people. This is like the real deal. This is not a drill. But then I noticed you would sneak in. I'm trying to think of a quick example, like the light, the outdoor light from a door crack would be sneaking in, and I'm like, okay, that looks more like, or the fog maybe is a better example. The fog and
right.
Heir of the
So
Dog.
the fog on this is on Heir of the Dog is the only graphic I've got in any of my games that I've done which isn't dithered. And I'm at the moment in the demo, it isn't a dithered one, and it wasn't because the way that the engine kind of moves the pixel, it just kind of having it as a dithered background just was too jarring. But it still pains me. I'm still umming and erring about it because I don't like
Great.
the fact that I think it looks okay. But I'm still, and it's there's no reason. I know that it's my game. I can do what I like. But the other thing is, I do a lot of playing about with transparency. So I will, anyone who's seen any of my kind of live streams or like time lapses of any of my kind of artwork that I've done, like I've always got Photoshop open, and there's the layer panel on the kind of right hand side, and it's just constantly just going like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of layers in there, of all kind of different sort of, I want a bit of shading on here, so I'll put a sort of semi-transparent but dithered kind of layer on the top. So it's kind of not a gradient, but it's also kind of building up layers and layers of kind of semi-opaque kind of dithered stuff. But yeah, no, you're right with the fog. Is like, damn, he spotted the fog. Yeah, that's the one. That is literally the one kind of asset that's in any of my games that isn't. And it's still, I want to find a way of making it work, and but I'm not quite. Yeah, I wasn't convinced with the dithering one. It just didn't work for me.
It's interesting because in the exact reverse of that predicament that you described with the dithering and the fog is I had one scene in my game where it's you're just looking, the full screen becomes the top of a pool table, and I originally had that dithered because I just wanted to dither something. I just wanted to try it. Like, maybe I just wanted to see if I could do it or whatever the case. I'm like, let's do like some old school dithering for the pool table. And it looked jarring in the exact opposite of what you're describing.
Yeah.
In the same spirit where it's like, but this isn't anywhere else in the game. So the dithering looks kind of it just looks super weird. So I ended up going back and doing it with the gradient and things like that. But so let me ask you real quick, because I was actually got hung up on examining your crystal ball on Lucy's shelf with the purple.
Oh yeah.
Would that be an example of the layering that you're describing?
Hang on a minute. Right, give me a second. I've got my machine on in front of me. Let me have a look. I'll open the Photoshop file and I'll have it because I can't remember how I made it. Hang on, yeah.
You look at that, and I'm going to just say that your carpets are the most amazing thing I've ever seen in your games. They are so detailed. I can stare at them for ages. You do such good carpet work, and we have my parents are carpet collectors, so we have a lot of carpets that are similar in form and shape.
World's only carpet collectors.
It's a thing, man. You do carpets good. You do know your carpets.
All right, let's have a look. All right, I've got to open up now. I've opened up one called lamp. That's the wrong lamp. There's too many bloody lamps. Oh, plasma ball. Here we go. Here's
plasma.
Right, no, that one. Oh, let's have a look. So yeah, you've got the pinky kind of purple bit and the black base. That's all flat, and that I think I just did sort of 3 or 4 kind of concentric circles, kind of going from pink on the outside to kind of purple in the middle, and then it's like a pink sort of cross in the middle. And then I drew 4 kind of frames of animation for the lightning, and that's a mixture of. Let's have a look. I think. Let's say so. Maybe like a 80% transparency and then maybe a 50% transparency. There's two kind of so it kind of starts off white in the middle and then gets sort of it's more faded towards the edge. But that's just white, but in just kind of different sort of transparency on the to kind of just make the lightning kind of fade out a little bit. But yeah, that's without looking at the file, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that's how I did it.
I'm impressed you found the file so fast. There's got to be so many assets.
I'm very organized.
What are you doing input wise? Like just might as well get the kind of, for anybody listening who does like pixel art or wants to dabble in it or anything like that. How are you technically doing it? Like with a Wacom tablet into Photoshop directly?
Just a mouse. So I just use a mouse.
Oh my god, you monster!
I know. I don't. Well, it's quite. Every time I do a live stream, I'll have if new people kind of pop in and like, hey, I've just seen your artwork and blah blah blah, and chat, and then there's kind of I'll just carry on doing it, and then there'll be like a silence for a bit, and then after a while, there's like, are you using a mouse? Because they can just hear the clicking and they can see the artwork and they can't really see what I'm doing. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I've got a really really cheap Dell mouse that I've had for years. So I just use that. So yeah, but that's what I'm that's what I've always, that's the tool of my trade. So that's what I've always used. I do have so when I'm doing non-pixel art stuff, I've got a Huion tablet kind of screen that I can use, and I've got.
Oh, is that how you say that, Huion? Okay, I've only ever read that.
That's how I got it as a recommendation from a YouTuber who that's how he pronounced it. So, but he's Australian, so I don't know. And then I've got an old kind of Wacom tablet, like a kind of A6 size kind of Wacom tablet as well. But now I've got the Huion. I don't really use that as much. But then I use that more for artwork that I'm gonna do, like kind of digital sort of painting or airbrushing type art rather than pixel art.
So is there a reason that you don't use the tablet for pixel art, or you're just...
I just never have. I probably should. There are lots of things that I should do, but also I'm 44,
just in life
and
in general.
I'm just not going to. There are so many things I wish I'd done, and I'm never going to, and I've just come to terms with that. So there is absolutely no reason other than that I'm a creature of habit, and I'm lazy about learning new. It's not even learning new things. I know how to use it, but I just yeah. Well, that's a brilliant idea. Why don't I do that? I'll save myself loads of time. I might have a go at some point, but it's just never. I've got to plug it in, and then, like, my mouse is already there. That's a faff, isn't it?
Multi-step process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. No, I just want to sit down, open up Photoshop, and it's just I might as well just. By the time I've got the QE on out, and I've plugged it all in, I've got my little glove on, and I'm doing, then and all that.
Right, man, that's funny.
But,
the glove is the deal breaker. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets delivered to me by a horse and carriage by my butler.
True.
And, brings it over, and it's until by that point I could have drawn whatever I'm planning to draw anyway. So
I just want to add that all of your meals are served to you with a metal dome over them as well.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. You've got to have a cloche.
Yeah. Oh my God, he knows the name. Thank
Is
you.
that the name? That's amazing. Is your horse-drawn carriages named like ours is? Ours are called the Tally-Ho. That's the name of the company. The Tally. You gonna go catch Tally-Ho?
Amazing. Well, Tally-Ho. That's not really a horse and carriage thing. That's more of a fox hunting thing.
Is it? Oh, funny. You see, we don't even know what we're doing over here. We're just trying, huh?
Have you tried hunting foxes with a horse and carriage? Because they can hear you coming. To be fair, with like bright red jackets shouting tally ho and blowing a trumpet, they can kind of hear you coming as well. It's sort of like, it does give the game away.
Just a little bit.
Guys are oddly recalcitrant with the red jackets. They've really holding on to those. I mean, they just keep giving you away.
Maybe they're trying to look like a fox. Like, I look like a fox. They'll think I'm just another fox with a trumpet. Hundreds of years, still doesn't work.
No.
I'm not, but I just said I do not condone fox hunting in any way. I'm not. This is
or the wearing of red jackets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or trumpets. I hate trumpets.
No, not unless it's in an adventure game. Then it's it's funny. Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you out there? I know the last time you were on the show, you said you hadn't really played a lot in the way of adventure games. Are there any games you've been playing, or are you in, like, I can hear from talking to you that you're really like, this is my game. I'm going to do it how I want. I appreciate suggestions, but in the end, this is what I'm going to do, and it's mine. So are you avoiding looking at other people's work, or are you looking at it for influence? I'm
not avoiding it. I'd not really. So last time I would have said, like, I hadn't really played any kind of adventure games really since the 90s. I did play a few of the Telltale games. So there was the obviously Tales from Monkey Island, Back to the Future, Sam and Max as well. They were all kind of 3D ones, and I did kind of work my way through a few of those. But apart from that, I hadn't really played any video games really since I was a teenager. So I hadn't really played any, and then I started making games, and then when you start making games, if you're sort of doing it obsessively like I was, you don't really have time to play anything. So I've played a couple of games. I've played the Will of Arthur Flavington, which is by Guga Games, and that's just brilliant. I just the puzzle design in that, that's pixel art, and that's just an absolutely fantastic game. I also did the voiceover for the main protagonist in that, but when playing the game, you'd think that would kind of give me an advantage. Like I know all the stuff. It's like I had no idea what the hell was going on, and I just didn't. I couldn't remember any of the lines I'd recorded. But that was a really good game. Other than that, I've played a few game jams because they're short. I've played a few demos because they're short, but kind of I don't feel like I've really got the time to kind of invest in like playing a really kind of full length adventure game. now, so I've not really just purely just down to, and if you ask any other kind of devs, they'll say the same things like, yeah, I don't have time to actually play games.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of double-edged sword in that sort of sense.
I've got a question that's, well, I'm gonna say things at you, and then maybe remember to end it with a question, because I almost feel like I should say the question first in case I forget it. But let's just roll the dice. Let's see what happens.
Okay, see what happens.
All right. So the whole notion of this episode came about because, well, one, because I had a very faint memory from our last sit down together that you were an artist first. Let's say that you went to university for art, and I was like, all right, let's maybe look at pixel art, and then it kind of furthered that thought to just this odd notion that pixel art is still popular. So my little thought is, I feel like pixel art, well, it was obviously a result of technical limitations, and so on paper you would think that as technology improved, the pixel art probably should have died, and it just won't. It still won't. It's I guess thriving now, arguably as best as it ever has. And I think it's almost two-part, because one, you have like a bunch of 30 to 30 plus developers like ourselves who are possibly making pixel art because of our fondness for it and nostalgia for it and things like this. But then you also have like a bunch of younger devs choosing pixel art, possibly in part just because they're standing on the shoulders of giants, where like Mario and Sonic and Guybrush and just all the greats were pixel art, let's say. So they're continuing it for their own reasons, whether nostalgia is even involved in that or not, I guess is what I'm saying. So long story short, pixel art it keeps surviving. It keeps I don't know, evolution. There's a 3-syllable word I'm trying to attain here.
Evolutionarily.
You can do it. You can do it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, keep going.
Evolutionizing. I just got a little Borat-y there, but I got it out. Evolutionizing. I shouldn't have done that. I regret.
You shouldn't have done that. Wow, yeah. That's getting cut out.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. There's always one.
Just want to apologize to our 3 Slavic listeners. That was over the line. So I guess that there's my neat statement that was mostly just me trying to say one word. But also the question I promised is, oh yeah, dude, it's happening. We're connecting the circle. I got cocky. What was the question? Right. Why did you choose pixel art?
Yeah.
So I grew up playing pixel art games in the kind of late 80s and 90s. Then things kind of, graphics got better. Consoles got better. 3D was, and I feel that there a lot of kind of point and click games and kind of point and click sort of franchises went down the 3D route, and I didn't enjoy them. I just like when Escape from Monkey Island came out, and I'm sort of sure some of it's down to kind of it has its flaws. But I just didn't enjoy the 3D aspect of it. It didn't feel right. I liked to be able to see a whole scene, and I like hidden object games. I like puzzle. I like spot the difference puzzles. I like a sort of visual thing I can look at and go, what's going on here? Yeah. And I didn't like the fact that you had to kind of move around and you could only see things from certain angles, and you had to kind of, and it didn't feel like the same sort of game for me. So when I wanted to make a point and click game, there was no way I would make it any other way than a kind of a 2D game. Mm-hmm. And pixel art just I didn't even think about it. That was what I wanted to make. I didn't, and I thought, I'll make it pixel art because that's what I want it to look like. So that's what I'll do, and it never really kind of occurred to me to do it any other way. Weirdly, it's strangely now it has. So
right.
I'm working on another pixel art game at the moment, but I have plans for future games where I'm not going to necessarily use pixel art. I might end up kind of going, I'll just default and go back to using pixel art again. My mouse is already plugged in, or I might try and do something different. I think also it's like you were saying, it just kind of won't die, and it kind of keeps sort of coming up. It's a bit, for me, pixel art doesn't feel like a style so much as it feels like a tool. So it's a bit like saying like paint doesn't die out. It gives a very specific look for a thing. It's like you can draw with pencil, you can draw with charcoal, you can draw with paint, you can draw with squares, and it's like potato prints. You know what I mean? It's a stylistic thing.
That's a great comparison.
It's funny because squares almost sound smuggled in that scenario. Like, yeah, charcoal, paint, acrylic, squares. Like, wait, what?
Got squares, man. Got some squares.
Yeah, exactly. I got a whole pencil case full of square case. But yeah, that's a bit like kind of vector style stuff. I don't know. It just, for me, it just feels like it's a style, isn't it?
Right.
Well, is it?
Yeah,
it could be like.
Yeah, you're right. Now I'm talking out my ass.
Is it a marketing choice too, though? I think like people want pixel art games. I mean, if you're looking at it from even a financial standpoint, I mean, I'm not saying all AAA games are, but there's a lot of pixel art games that are doing really well out there right now.
Yeah, I think it's something that also it's really useful for avoiding uncanny valley. It's because
that's a great point.
It's never trying to be realism. It's like some of the it's like, okay, when you saw the first Toy Story film, you go, you're blown away, but my God, do the human beings look horrible. Right. And then when Pixar kind of the first couple of films, they were like they were desperate. They were absolutely desperate to get these human beings looking right and looking as good as all the the hardwood floors and the bouncing balls did, and they just wouldn't. And as soon as Pixar kind of embraced the fact that actually, you know what, they make cartoons and doing them as cartoon characters was going to look a hell of a lot better because you're not trying to do, something that's hyper real. All of a sudden, it was much more comfortable to watch. And with pixel art, you don't have to worry too much. Even if you're trying to do a, Leisure Suit Larry style close up of a person, talking to you and trying to sort of look vaguely realistic. It's a stylized thing. It's like a vector art or something like that. It's not trying to look hyper real. So I think it's a nice way of being able to kind of get away with quite naive graphics sometimes, and still looking good, and people then just concentrate on the game. They concentrate on the story. Obviously, people love pixel art as well, but you're not there going, wow, look at that sunset, and wow, look at the way the grass moves. And actually, I've not listened to what this NPC's saying because they're just talking shit. And it's not. You're not necessarily just. I mean, yeah, I'm underplaying kind of some like how good some pixel artists are. Some pixel artists are amazing, and their work looks incredible. I've got away with doing some really dodgy artwork, some really dodgy animations in Lucid Dreaming. There are some animations in there that are just comically bad. And there are times when she'll pick up an object. Sometimes she'll kneel down in a hilariously awful way, and sometimes she'll, like whatever she's picked up will just appear in her inventory, and nobody cares. Absolutely nobody cares. And I was I could have put so much love and attention into animations for all those, and I feel like the risk would have been actually I'd end up annoying people because they actually just want to move on. Like, I just want that object. I want that object. I want it in my pocket. I don't want to go. I know what I want to do with it. So, and because I'm like, even though I studied animation, I'm not very good at animation. I don't really like animating. So I try and avoid it now. So I'm kind of debating in my new game whether I even have kind of reaching up and reaching down and those sort of animations. Right. I think sometimes it helps. I think if it's for comic effect, if you're going to do something kind of funny, then like there's a particular something happens when you do or you want it to you want there to be a bit of kind of tension as they go and sort of pick something up slowly. Yeah, you can kind of do that for kind of narrative reasons. But other than that, I'm
not if it's routine.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of avoid doing too much animation because I'm just not very good at it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's very hard. Well, okay, here's an interesting take on that. So I had the pleasure of showing my game, and it's very clunky. Maybe it's even being generous animations. I had to show them to my brother, who's won an Emmy for animating.
Okay.
So it's like this, this is, and he's.
Oh shit, he doesn't work for Pixar, does he? I'm really sorry.
No, we're good. We're good.
He was the face specialist on Toy Story 1. Awkward.
So I had to show him those, and he brought up a really good point. He's like, well, when I think back to the old Sierra games and things like that, like the animations were terrible. They were really clunky and weird, and like especially with Sierra, because Sierra didn't really have like specialized artists. They were just like, hey, who in here thinks they can draw? You're on the team. You're the guy. Like half the staff there, they worked at like local diners and shit. So it's you can. Not that it's you can get away with almost leaning on that, where it's just like, oh, this is the tradition. You see, point and click games have always had clunky, not charming animations. There you go. Charming would be the lipstick on a pig kind of way to put it, where it's like, this is charming, because it harkens back to that. But you bring up a really good point about how well, actually, sorry. Let me back up one more step and say, from what I'm deriving from what you were describing there, Tom, is that Pixar is perhaps like one of the reasons it's endured. Perhaps is that it's like the least gatekeepy of the art forms. If you want to like break into making a game, as you described with like avoiding uncanny valleys and things like that, like it is perhaps the easiest entry point artistically.
Yeah, I think so. I think. I mean, I know. I mean, there are again on the kind of pixel art Facebook groups. There are newbies. There are people who are saying come there for advice. People who are just starting their journey. But it's so there are a range of different. Not everyone is an artist. So not everyone is straight out of the bat. So off the bat. So I have done illustration in different forms. In my I've sat and drawn cartoons and done kind of professional illustration stuff for years. So I know how to set a scene and choose colors and do and that sort of thing. So that's kind of stuff that you build on with experience. But in terms of a tool, I mean, you can just use MS Paint. You know what I mean? It's nothing you have to sit there like with learning Blender,
right?
Which is that's an investment in your life. For that's a lot of hours going to be spent. Whereas if you want to do kind of pixel art stuff, you can. I mean, you look at something like, I know it's not pixel art, but even like Thomas Was Alone. You can do a game which is just shapes, very basically, and also the file size. So the Lucy Dreaming, the whole full game of Lucy Dreaming is like under 300 meg. I think it's like 275 megabytes or something.
Right.
And that's with 11,000 lines of dialogue and stuff. So it's even with all that, it's still absolutely tiny because all the animations and all of the scenes and the character sprites and everything are all just so low res. They're not even compressed, so they're kind of PNGs. But they even when they're uncompressed, they're still just tiny.
What are you programming in, by the way?
So I'm using Visionaire Studio.
Visionaire, oh cool, okay. So you might be the first person I've asked that's answered with Visionaire before. I looked into Visionaire. It made my like semifinals. Let's say. I think for me it came down to Visionaire versus Adventure Game Maker versus AGS.
So I originally the first kind of couple of games that I made, which I probably talked about on the podcast last time, were HTML kind of browser based games. So one of them was for a client of ours of a museum, and they wanted to make a game, and I said, "Hey, you should make a point and click adventure game," and they said, "Okay," for some reason, and they kind of gave us free reign to do that. So kind of wrote the whole story, did all the artwork, but at this point we were given like 3 months to kind of build it. It's only kind of an hour or so long, but I had no idea that game engines even existed. So I kind of programmed it in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, in kind of Notepad, and just kind of wrote my own game engine for it. I think that's kind of being a little bit generous. It was, a kind of game framework thing that worked. And then when COVID kind of lockdown hit in 2020, I then used the same kind of HTML framework to make it another game, which was Lockdown. So that was my kind of experience of it. Then it was only after I kind of released, or kind of, I say released, kind of announced on Twitter that I made a game called Lockdown, and it was picked up by a couple of streamers who were doing, there was an adventure game jam had ended like the week before, and they were like, oh, is this one of the entries in that? I was like, what? I have no idea what that is. But they said, oh, well, I'll tell you what, we'll add it to our stream anyway. So I was like, okay, so I'll watch their stream, and in the chat were loads of other devs. It's like, holy shit, these are like other, and they started playing all these point-and-click games and other adventure games. Like, my God, there are other people. I had literally no idea that there were other people making point-and-click games, because as far as I was concerned, you couldn't buy point-and-click games anymore. So obviously people aren't making them, especially not pixel art ones, especially not 2D. And I wasn't like arrogant enough to think I was the only person ever to think of doing it, but it hadn't occurred to me that there would be such a vast community of people who've been doing it for years. So I in the chat, they're sort of saying, hey, what game engine do you use? I'm like, oh, I just kind of programmed it in JavaScript. And they went, oh, right, you should have a look at other game engines. I was like, oh, that would have been a really, really much better thing to do, really, wouldn't it? So I suddenly realised that there are these things called game engines, and they will do all the hard work for you. And it's like that would have just saved months and months and months of of kind of coding. So I had a look at based on their recommendation. I think I went on Google, and some of them had said, right, have a look at AGS. So I kind of downloaded that and had a play with that, and did the usual kind of, oh, right, I'll stick a few kind of sprites in it, and I'll get an inventory set up and a couple of scenes and work out exits and picking stuff up, and okay, yeah, did that. And then did a Google search, I think, for kind of point and click game engine, and Visionaire came up. So I thought, well, I'll download the free trial of that. And when I used that, it felt to me, it felt much slicker, and it also, everything that was in there, all the kind of different variables and functionality that was in there, it mirrored what I'd already programmed in my HTML version. So when I was looking for something, and I'd say, well, if I was programming it, that would be as kind of a scene variable or a character variable or a dialogue variable. And then I'd kind of look in the engine, I'd look in the API, and I go, oh, there it is. And that's sort of, it was kind of laid out, and the kind of back end of it sort of was formatted in a way that I kind of understood intuitively. I mean, it's obviously a million times more powerful and more flexible than what I created, but it felt intuitive to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So an interesting point. My brain's like, should I head down that road? Because I got something to say there, of course, or go back to this one thought I haven't let go of yet, but might have just forgotten. Oh no. Okay. I got it. Okay. A few minutes ago, I thought it was interesting that the overall theme, I guess, of the that part of the conversation was like how pixel art started as a I don't know, it's something that probably on paper shouldn't have lasted the time that it has, and then you would come to an interesting point where you were like, I think it's more of a tool, and then you kind of surrender to the fact that I guess it's a style. And I really like that, because that is kind of, in a nutshell, like the theme of the same thing that I've kind of been wrestling with myself, which is like, it feels like it's a tool, but I guess the time in which it was a tool has passed now, and we're all still just using it. So I guess it's like, it's almost like in our specific generation's lifetime have watched this thing evolve into a style, and it really didn't start that way. I'm not even sure it was ever supposed to be a style, but like here we are. So anyway.
I think it's just kind of an accidental thing that's, I think it can be beautiful in its kind of simplicity as well. And I think that's it's I don't know where I was going with that.
No, that's
that sounded like it was going to be really profound as well.
Yeah.
No, I got nothing.
No, it is art. I mean, there's now artists that are out there on the internet that are not even making games, and you see their pixel art and you're like, wow, what game is that from? It's like nowhere, but you want to put the print up on your wall. And I feel that way about some of the scenes from your game, Paul, and your game, Tom. It's this is beautiful. This is art. I want to put it up on my wall and I want to stare at it outside of the context of it being a game at all. And I think that's a bit of the enduring timelessness, it's beautiful.
I think that's something. So I'm kind of looking at the wall behind me, and I've got an E-Boy print on my wall, which is I don't know if you know it's an E-Boy, but when I first came across E-Boy's work, and he's I say he, I assume it's a he, is a pixel artist who drew kind of relatively simple characters, but also did city scenes. So did one for like Berlin and London and Venice. And I've got the kind of Venice one on my wall, and it's something I love about it. It's vibrant, and it's like having a kind of a real life video game still kind of it's like it's very evocative about it. Though it wasn't from a video game, it feels like that. And with other kind of graphic styles, they don't necessarily have that. So if you have a kind of cartoon style, it could have been from a video game, or a 3D rendered style, it could have been from a video game, but it also could have been from a film or a cartoon, whereas pixel art kind of solely sort of lives in video game and video games sort of adjacent kind of communities and so I kind of I like the way I can kind of look at that, and it feels like I could click on stuff on the picture,
right?
And I quite like that.
That's a very good point. That it is almost exclusive, I guess you could say, or the connotations that are exclusive to that of a video game. I've got a coffee table book here. Just reaching for it so I can actually say the artist's name. It's called Point and Click, and it's by Andrew Scaife or Scaife, Scaife. And it's just a bunch of scenes from popular movies and shows translated to a kind of LucasArts style pixel art scene. And I say LucasArts because most of them, if not all of them, all of them have like a 9-verb thing, an inventory at the bottom. But it covers everything from like Inglourious Bastards to Superbad to Star.
That's really cool. I wonder if that was if the author had the same thing that I'm sure most of us had growing up. Have once you've played an adventure game, every time you watch a film, every time you read a book, every time you do anything, you just go, oh my God, they should make a point-and-click adventure game.
Right.
And it's just like anytime you enjoy any media or anything, it's just like, this would be amazing. This whole story would be amazing. I could see how this character did this, and you could make a puzzle out of this, and that's I imagine that's sort of where that came from. It's just that I remember just when I was 10 years old, whatever, watching films or cartoons, I just go, that just they should, I'd be kind of hoping someday that the point-and-click adventure game would come out, like it did with Indiana Jones. It's like, come on, there's so many more point-and-click adventures to be had.
Yeah, you start imagining what the inventory items would be and what you'd collect in that room, and
exactly.
And the different ways, like, hey, in the show you only see one way, and if it's made into a game, you can see 3 or 4 different things that might happen here, and it expands the storyline so much on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. Using the kind of incidental stuff that's in the background. So when if it's Back to the Future, you'll get. Which obviously they have done point-and-click games now, but you'd look at the addition, the initial scene where there's all the clocks and the kind of the kind of Heath Robinson style kind of thing, kind of making his breakfast and feeding the dog. It's like, well, this is all stuff you could interact with and you could pick up and you could use, and you want to, it gives you a way of interacting with a story. I mean, obviously this is just video games in general, but the idea of being able to interact with the story and affect it in some ways, it's magical. And I just, as soon as I got a taste for it as a child, it's like, I want everything to be, I want to get in there, and I want to kind of manipulate whatever's in this story and kind of be a part of it.
Right. Yeah. This gives you that feeling of like a day in the life of or something. I was always fascinated with that notion of like being able to spend a day in the life of blank. And I don't know, first example oddly that comes to mind is like the Beavis and Butthead game,
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, dude, like I want to walk around whatever that town was called. I'm blanking on that, but yeah, just to have the ability to like explore that world, and yeah, that does blur the line too, where adventure games, at least as a kid, felt like massive open worlds to me in a sense. Right?
Yeah.
You felt like you could be traveling around this, gigantic, land. And
oh man, imagine a Ren and Stimpy computer game, adventure game where you could switch between Ren and Stimpy to accomplish everything in it. That would be like pretty cool.
Oh my god, that'd just be insane.
All the close-ups and everything, right?
Yeah.
How about when you guys are like buying a game, or even, I mean, that's like a kind of railroad or oddly specific, but just when you're getting excited about a new game that's coming out, or potentially buying a game, or thinking about playing one, where does pixel art play a role in that at all? And I can kind of lead by saying I've become a little almost accidentally snobby about it, because I really love pixel art. It's fun to look at. It's fun to like, sometimes it's even just whittles down to looking at something and being amazed at how they made something so readable with 20 pixels. And you're like, man, that is exactly what they knew, what it's supposed to be, or this fascination, I guess you could say, with the limitations behind it. And so I tend to really stick kind of only with pixel art adventure games, and that's only because there's so many. Like if I was wanting at all for adventure games, I wouldn't have this weird, I don't know, stipulation or whatever. It's just, there's so many amazing games out there, and there's plenty to pick from that are pixel art, where I'm like, I'm not going to play something because it's not pixel art, but I am going to play the pixel art one first. And then there's
I don't have a need for it to be pixel art. Obviously it's not, I have kind of two things. So it's great to be inspired by other people's pixel art, but also it's kind of depressing sometimes, because you just like, if you play a really, really beautifully hand-drawn pixel art game, I'm just there just going, I can never do that.
Ricardo Yucum, I think his name. Ricardo's work does that to me. It's just like
there were so many just and like Matt Frith's work as well. It's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, Adam Richards as well, making Locomotive. His animation as well, just absolutely beautiful.
Ben Chandler. We're naming names. I had to throw him in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of so for me, I don't avoid it. I don't seek it out. I am generally the only games I'm playing are, so there are two types of games that I am purchasing at the moment. One is supporting other indie developers, and that's my friends, people in the community, backing them on Kickstarter, buying their games, leaving reviews, and just generally trying to be nice. And playing the games that but also I don't play. The only games I really play are kind of on older consoles anyway. So I buy quite a lot of not just adventure games, but kind of homebrew console games. So NES games, Game Boy games that are being made by indie developers, and also older titles as well that I've either played when I was younger, or I never had a chance to play. So I play a lot of older games anyway. So generally speaking, a lot of the games I'm playing are pixel art. That's just by their nature. So all the older, the ones running on older consoles, they kind of have to be. The ones that are other indie kind of adventure games, it's kind of, I suppose it's probably about 50-50. But it doesn't affect how likely I am to kind of to buy it. I don't think. I think I like it, but it's not a kind of deciding factor for me.
It almost makes me want to sorry, and real quick, to almost makes me want to go back and change the wording to play instead of buy, because you're exactly right. It's like well, as you alluded to earlier too, Tom, it's like when neither of us are really playing a whole lot of games because we're in development. So it's like we're not going to be playing them, but we are buying, supporting other developers, sort of. Yeah. So it certainly wouldn't stop me there. And then I guess in reality, I'm not actually playing them anyway. So
I I think with pixel art, we can make things absolutely as beautiful. And it's not that we've reached the limitations of where we can go with pixel art, but we've been able to hit all sides of it to make a gorgeous game, even with different skill levels. And kind of like what you alluded to before, Paul, but it's when you're playing a game and it's not pixel art and somebody isn't extremely good at what they're doing, it can kind of be a little bit disappointing, even if the graphics are good. Like I've been making fun of games trying to make better graphics for years. Like, oh, there you go, trying to make it look so real when you can't really make it real. And I've maybe in the past judged games for that or stayed away from them because of that. And pixel art is very authentically pixel art, beautiful, no matter how big and chunky the pixels. Or it's just a good game is a good game is a good game with pixel art. And up until recently, when checking out Red Dead 2, thanks to Paul's recommendation, which is an absolutely beautifully visual game. And I wonder, well, am I gravitating towards that because of the art? And actually, I think for me, the commonality in all the games that I like to play is a good story. And Red Dead hits that nail right on the head, even though it's completely different from anything else that I'm playing.
It's funny because Red Dead is drop dead gorgeous, and then until they smile, and then they have these creepy little teeth.
Yes, it's so true, man. It's
dark
so
little,
true.
yeah. It's just like, yeah. And it goes to show just how unfair it is, as far as just how humans are, as far as the level of perfection that I guess we're insisting on. Because it's messed up for me to begin to criticize a game as gorgeous as Red Dead, but there is that. It's I think almost how I've described voice acting in the past, where it's like I always have a hard time wording this. It's so easy to mess things. Like one bad voice actor can do a lot more damage than a game that has no voice acting. Like sometimes it's better to just have a silent game than have a game with just one bad voice actor, because they can just.
And then you have Lucy Dreaming that has a stop-in by Dominic Armato from Monkey Island, and I think, didn't you guys just to create a character for him in the game?
Yeah, so I kind of I when I was thinking about doing a Kickstarter and kind of making a game, I kind of went, oh yeah, that would be really cool, wouldn't it, to have him in there. Didn't kind of realize all of the kind of Screen Actors Guild union like hoops and paperwork that needs to be kind of filled in, which literally took months. It was just one of the most painful kind of bureaucratic processes we've ever been through. So which is one of the reasons why he's not voiced any other games, because all the other indie developers, he says he's been approached a couple of times, and he always says the same thing, like I'm a union guy. It's make it a union gig, and I mean, yeah, absolutely. No, he's just the nicest guy. He is so funny and clever and conscientious and just lovely chap. But he's a member of the union, and his rule has always been it's got to be sanctioned by the union. So you've got to kind of run the project by them and give them all and there's certain kind of things you have to do in terms of the payment and social security payments and pension contributions and all this sort of stuff that all has to kind of be kind of included in your kind of in your paperwork. And he said they've all kind of gone away and they never come back. And he said this is like the first time, apart from obviously kind of LucasArts and Ron Gilbert's, but first time that anyone's kind of gone away and gone, okay, yeah, we'll do that, and then a few months later come back and go, okay, done. Well, let's do it. And he was like, oh, wow, okay. No one's ever really kind of like run the gauntlet of the paperwork before and kind of got through it. So, and that was all power to my wife Emma for doing that, because she was on that. Like, absolutely, I would have given up.
It's pretty impressive, because I mean, you're looking at what he's been in, and you're like, yep, LucasArts, Lord of the Rings, this, and then right at the top of the list, you've got Lucy Dreaming, and I'm like, man, it's kind of cool just to get your name in on that. So I'm glad you pushed through
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he did a little bit of voicing for the War of the Ring. It was the video game version.
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. Should have done my research. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was like, and yeah. So in terms of writing a character for him, so obviously Lucy Dreaming it's set in Britain. It's kind of quintessentially British. It's kind of small town kind of Britain on a plate. So kind of having like an American voice actor in it, it was that like I had to write a character especially for it, and I had to kind of make it make sense. So it was going to, originally I wasn't sure kind of how many lines I was going to be able to afford. He's like, was it just going to be like, well, it's going to, it's a little cameo with 5 lines or something. He's just going to be like a guy sitting in the pub, and he just comments on something,
right.
Just for a bit of fun. But we kind of there's a minimum amount of studio time that you have to have as a union gig. I think it's 2 hours. I think it's like the minimum. So we were like, well, we've got him. Let's let's get what we can. So yeah, wrote a kind of a character, and I really wanted to. I kind of follow him as a dining critic, a food critic that he's that on kind of Instagram and yeah, I mean, he used to be on Twitter. He's on kind of Mastodon now, and on Facebook and stuff. And I've always kind of I've loved sort of reading his kind of stuff about the food and things. So for me, it was really nice to kind of be able to say, well, actually, the character I'll write, I'll kind of make it a bit of a nod to kind of what he's doing now.
Right.
So the character in the game is a kind of dining critic as well. So, and a few people have on kind of Facebook and things have sort of gone like, I don't get it. Why would you kind of have this go to the trouble of having a voice actor and not have him like being a pirate? It's like, what? Because it's not Monkey Island, and that's kind of that kind of wouldn't be cool for me. I like the fact that
it's a bit on the nose,
there,
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're there going, well, why is he food great? And then it's also quite a nice people like being kind of in the know. So if
right.
there were then a load of people in the comments below going, well, actually, didn't you know? And I think people kind of like that. It's like, oh, and then also it's like it's just an interesting thing, and it sort of partially kind of helps to sort of support what he's doing now and say, look, this is what he's doing now, and that's cool. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love that so much. There's so many elements, things I've like snuck into my own game under the fantasy of dreaming that people will be like, is that true? And then having to look it up to be like, it was true. Like, I love that so much that and to give them that creeping suspicion, like, this is oddly specific. Like, is Dominic actually a food critic? And then, to come to find out, like, that's such a good payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got lots of opportunities of that sort of thing. So my new games are kind of set in kind of Victorian London, and like doing research into kind of Victoria. I mean, the Victorians were just. I mean, there's so much there. They were just they were messed up. There's so much stuff that they did and invented and wanted to invent and tried out, and it's like this. If I want, I can basically make a list, and I have got a list of kind of just hundreds and hundreds of different, just strange words that they used, and phrases and things that I can just get. Like I can just fill scenes with just loads of just kind of stuff, and like, what's this? Oh, it's an automatic girdle straightener or something, like it's like for no, like just kind of, and then people kind of look and go, is that a thing? And you go, well, no, but it wasn't, but it did this. And also I can also play with the idea of inventions that were yet to come but hadn't quite been invented yet, or were sort of they were almost there but they hadn't quite got it, so they a bit like you sometimes had in kind of Monkey Island things as well. You'd have kind of something that was like an alternative to what would be like a modern day kind of invention or something.
Right.
So it's so I'm kind of, I've got a huge document full of just loads of stuff. So I'm whenever I get to a point where I go, right, insert joke here, or I need an object to go in this scene, or I need to fill this shot with random crap. What am I going to put in there? And I can just go and go, yeah, here's a wealth of different weird things, and they can all be genuine as well, which is nice.
That's brilliant. That was my summer last year, literally. My game is 7 days, and day 5 the ghosts are Victorian, and just I had this giant document of slang, because the slang is so much fun. It's just so bonkers, all of it. Just collecting collecting all the slang alone, and then hearing, really just down the same rabbit hole you were in, where like researching what they would do for fun and finding out that they would go like just look at a dead body for a while. They'd be like, they brought the Harrington girl in, she died this afternoon, and people would, because they didn't have CSI or whatever. Like,
yeah. Oh, cool. You'll just go and check it out.
Yeah, we have nothing going on. All right, let's just looking at a dead body is my whole month of May. It's
all the kids just get on their penny farthings and just racing over like in Stranger Things.
Exactly.
Like, go and see the dead body.
Exactly.
It made for interesting conversations. Paul would be messaging me with the randomest things. And of course, he's making me run to Google, and I'm not even playing the game at the time, right? So it's a good, I love that idea of like Chinatown Detective Agency, which is another absolutely beautiful kind of pixel art game, did a lot of that, where it's like, I'm going to send you off into the real world. You're going to go on over to Google, and you're going to figure this stuff out. Then you're going to come back to the game with new knowledge, and you're going to figure out how to proceed. And I thought that was so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And let's like so I always love the connections to the real world. So like when you used to get kind of boxed games with stuff that you could go, you'd have like physical objects from the game, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do kind of Kickstarter as well, because it allows you to kind of do some of those kind of physical rewards. So I've got have the bar mats from the pub and things like that in kind of made. Which are quite cool, and also created a website. So the kind of the town that Lucy lives in is called Figgington, and that's just a made up town. But if you there's like a little poster on the shop in the town centre which says for all the latest parish council news, go to figgington.co.uk. And I've created that, so that's a website you can go to.
Beautiful.
There's a bit of kind of extra kind of lore.
Love
I think there's some ASCII art in the source code, and there's there's like an old kind of 90s style guest book you can sign, and just loads of really kind of bad animated GIFs and things like that. It looks like it's like the websites I used to make when I was 15. And I thought
proper
really
GeoCities vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Angel Fire and all that. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, no, that's the good stuff. Well, this is great. You've gotten me super excited to get the word out there. I played Lucy Dreaming. I played the demo of Hair of the Dog, and I mean, it's got this lovely but slightly darker, gritty London city undertones with the various things that you're flirting with to go through potions.
Love the nighttime shift too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm running out of windows to say things, but yeah, the day-night shift in Hair of the Dog is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved, and this is the same with Lucy Dreaming, with the kind of the sleeping and reality, the kind of the two worlds. I loved Day of the Tentacle when I was younger, and I still do. But the time travel, the idea of having two sort of separate worlds that affect each other, and you do something in one location and it affects something in another location. You have to kind of think outside the box.
Yes.
So being able to kind of do that with the dream and reality was really good fun, and it's the same with the kind of the night and day, and obviously you've got kind of different abilities as well kind of at night time and daytime. So there are certain things that you can't do at night. There are different characters on the streets. You can't talk to people, but you have more strength and you can sniff things. So you can kind of sniff out clues and you can track stuff, and then you can kind of go back to daytime and then you're in kind of different locations. So there's different ways of kind of getting around kind of London and finding things and finding clues and stuff. And it's coming up with the puzzles for those is always really good fun as well.
Right. I imagine they come quite naturally. But when you've laid the foundation for yourself ahead of time, like past Tom set it up to where you've got the Jackal High dynamic, the day night mechanic, and then all of a sudden things just kind of opportunities more present themselves. Like, hey, you could just right here, like here's your puzzle. It kind of stares you in the eyes, and I always feel like those are always the best puzzles. They're always like the more intuitive, and they the ones that are. I'm not sure you can tell when they're natural, but you can tell when they're not. Maybe is what I'm trying to say. You can tell when a puzzle is like just kind of forced in there, like you're doing a puzzle now. And in your games, like with the dreaming sequence, I haven't played Hair of the Dog's demo, but from my experience with Lucy would be enough to assume safely, I think, with Heir the dog, that they just come more naturally that way, because the gaming world, the games world already set it up for these things to happen.
Yeah, and I don't tend to sort of start with a puzzle. I mean, in terms of, I don't tend to write puzzles and then go, right, I really want a puzzle like this, and I want to put that in there. I will come up with themes or things like I really want it to have, I don't know, rhubarb or something in it. It's like I really want to have a guy who sells fish because I think it'll be really funny. Or I really want to have that, and I'll have these kind of ideas. So one of the things in Lucid Dreaming was I really loved the idea of there being a giant duck that really loved bread, and that was one of the things right straight from the off. It's like I don't care how he gets in there, but that's going to be part of it. But in terms of the puzzles, I tend to start with actually just the basics. Like, okay, she needs to get through a door. Like, she has a key. Okay, now how can I then kind of make that more if I need to kind of tweak the different puzzles to kind of make them make the narrative kind of speed up or slow down or introduce other characters, I can say, right, okay, I now need to make this, put an extra step in there because that's too simple. And you kind of intuitively know if something feels too simple. Like if you're just going around picking up all the objects and just using them, or just doing fetch quests. Oh, get me this, and I'll give you something else, and you give that to somebody else, and they give you something else, and that for me doesn't add anything. So I'll always kind of go, right. So I've got three things, three kind of plates spinning. I need to introduce this character. I need to get to a different access to a different location, and when I get there, I need to have learnt this and also have this in my pocket. So what puzzle can I create that will achieve all of those things so that I can get to the next bit? And that's kind of, so it, in its simplest form, you walk through a door, you talk to a character, and they give you something. But then there, you can then go, right, actually that's too simple. Let's to try and think of it just an interesting kind of puzzle. And a lot of the time, I will draw the artwork for for a scene with loads of stuff in it that I just think looks cool. I think it's funny. And then when I kind of get to the puzzle stage, I'll kind of go, right. So I've now I'm in this scene here. How would I do this? And I look around the scene that I've drawn. I go, there's a mirror on the wall. Okay, right. Could I do something with that? Or could I do? Or there's a stuffed crocodile. What can I do with that? Okay, well, I could probably use that in some way. Or I could do this and kind of. Or there's a drawer. Is there something in the drawer? I don't know. What happens? And walk over it. And I'll literally kind of play the game. I'll import all the artwork and I go, right, what's in the drawer? Well, I need to write some dialogue. There's a small mouse in the. Okay, fine. What am I doing with that? Right. And I literally kind of make stuff up and kind of think, well, what's in there and how could that be used? It's a slightly odd way of coming up with puzzles now. Now I've kind of said it out loud, but that's I think sometimes I suppose for me that seems to work, and it kind of feels more organic. So you're there, right. And you're actually kind of living the puzzle and go, right, okay, well that feels a little bit easy. So let's not put that in. Let's not put that just on the floor to pick up. Let's put it in there. Okay, now I can't get in there because there's a dog in the way. So how do I what could I do about that? And that at least means that when you get to the result of the puzzle, and you've solved it and you got to the next bit, there was a reason for kind of doing it, because that was part of the story. It wasn't just like, oh, I need 8 puzzles, therefore I should have a puzzle here. I will insert a puzzle. It's part of the story. All the puzzles achieve something, whether it's more knowledge or it's introducing a new scene or a new character or whatever it is that there's kind of reasons for all the different kind of elements in them. I'm not
right. No,
not always. Some of them are just stupid. Like I do insert just some stupid things in there as well, just for a bit of fun. But it's,
right.
Generally speaking,
yeah. No, it's. I guess it's downright cathartic to hear you describe it that way, because it's the exact same process I have, where it's, and I think part of my my struggle to articulate my point a minute ago, saying like past Tom sets the world up for current Tom to be able to pull off a natural puzzle. It's exactly what you described, where I'll draw just a bunch of stuff that is now in the room. And it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with the stuff that's already here? And that in itself kind of creates, as you worded it, like this organic, just natural, like, of course you would do that because that was part of this room. And, even though there's an argument to be made, like, well, it's in the room because you made it be in the room. But it's like, I'm imagining you're coming at it from a similar place to me, where it's like the Paul who drew the stuff and put it in the room is not the same Paul who's now trying to think of a puzzle.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
you're kind of looking back like, okay, well, previous me left all this shit here for me to do something with, and we'll make it fun, and hopefully that prevents it from being, feeling convoluted or feeling forced or, on
one of the things I really love, and I don't know whether I fluked it or what, but on I don't know 5 or 6 occasions, I needed a particular item. Or so I needed something to achieve. So I go, right, I need something that will help me do this. And I don't know. And I'll go, but also I feel like I've not been back to this location for a while. So I'd go back to the location and I'd look around and go, brilliant. And it was almost like serendipitous that something would be there. Go, that's what that's for.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's a reason for this. So there was some, so there's an item that Lucy picks up really, really early in the game. And carries it around for basically the entire game, and you can try and use it with various things, and it doesn't work. And it's just always there. It's just I was just going to kind of leave it in there, so it never did anything. But I got to the kind of penultimate scene. I went, right, I need something to do this. Oh, I'll use that.
Right.
And then so many times I've watched people play it, and they go. They get to that bit and they go, oh, I hope I could use this because I've been carrying this. And like she just goes, oh, I knew I was carrying it around for some reason, and it's people seem to really enjoy the fact that it's like finally there's a reason for carrying that around.
I love this. It's like a dopamine hit on creating the game and discovering the puzzle that you're creating, but from the creator's side of things. And it's like full circle to the adventure gamer playing the game and feeling your excitement of discovering the item on the other side. It's like, that's synchronicity. I love that.
It is.
It's really good fun as well, because it means that you can actually play your own game without knowing what the hell's going to happen. So you got to do it in piecemeal, So obviously, like, I play it now and I know what's going to happen. I can remember most of it, I think. But it's as you're playing through, you can kind of go, right, what's in here? I don't know. And it's like you get that level of excitement. You go, well, I can put anything I want in there. And it's like the potential is anything. And I'd always like to try and put something in there that isn't just a key or isn't just, I'd like it to be, it's a a small child's shoe, or an old, a dead goldfish, or so, whatever it is, just something that's just, oh, okay, so now I've got this. But then you also got to avoid that way. Also lies moon logic. So if you're hiding something, actually that's something I have learned. Actually, is hiding something in a drawer that you would not expect to be in the drawer. That way can be a bit dangerous. If you've got something in a scene that you can see, but you don't necessarily have an immediate intuitive idea what it'd be used for, that's it's a bit obscure. That's fine. But if you're expecting people just to look in a drawer for looking in a drawer's sake, then in theory, unless you have a way of saying, maybe I should check all my drawers before I leave the room. Unless you've got something that's going to kind of at least force that to happen, you are technically that's moon logic, because I would never have thought that there would be a small child's shoe in there, so I couldn't possibly have solved the puzzle that giving the shoe to a child, because why would I have looked in the drawer? Unless the child says, why can't you find my shoe? And you go, well, I better not leave the room until I find the shoe. And then you go, right, okay, I know this is an exploration kind of thing.
Right,
but
exactly.
And my game is not without those moments, but I do consider each one of those moments a loss, where it's like, damn it, like you're on the back foot if you're having to signal to the player, like, hey, we should stick around.
Definitely.
Like every time I've done that, I'm like, okay, next time we're gonna do better than this. Like I hate having to signal, because it means I probably didn't think something through as well as I could have. But no, this is really nice to all of this to hear again in like a validating, cathartic sort of way, because there's been so many times, probably 20 times that I've messaged Anna, like, she'll be like, oh, I'm trying to think of the framing of it, but it all whittles down to me saying this thing that just happened in the game was accidentally awesome, or accidentally brilliant, and that the accidental part is that like the item you described that Lucy gets in the beginning and finally uses. Like there's been so many little moments where it's just like, wow, like this accidentally turned out so cool. Like it's gonna look like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, and you feel like a fraud, but also it happens nearly every. I've not got to a point where I've needed something and I haven't been able to kind of look around and find what I need.
Right.
Like there's like in some way, and I think that's also down to it's down to how you think about a point and click game. Like you go, right, I need to cut this rope, and you go around. It's like, well, I haven't drawn a knife in any of the rooms. I haven't drawn any scissors in any of the rooms. But I tell you what, there's a rat. Brilliant. Right, I'm using that. Right. I knew there was a rat hole there, so I now need to go get some cheese and get a rat, and then get the rat to gnaw through the rope or whatever it is, and that's it. And I think it's very easy to kind of to not give yourself the credit for that, and actually that's down to because you're not just going to go. Hang on a minute, I've got to this point where there's a treasure chest and I can't get in it, and you go, well, I don't know, I wonder about. Oh yeah, that's why I put that key on the table.
Right.
It's not going to be that obvious, but you're going to be able to, because you're there trying to solve the problem, like a point and click adventure fan. You're there looking at going, well, could I use that? Yeah, I could use that, but I just need to tweak this, and and it's really nice to have things come full circle. So when you and that's what I found that's what this sort of method helps to create, is it means that everything's there for a reason. Not everything's there, but a lot of things are there kind of for a reason. So you'll so many things I'd kind of drawn in there or I'd added in there, and then assuming they were just there for the sake of a joke or just to fill a bit of wall space or whatever, and being able to kind of reintroduce them back into the story in a kind of meaningful way. It feels really neat and really tidy and really, really satisfying, and I think players feel that as well.
They do.
I think it's
synchronicity.
It's almost like safeguarded against moon logic in a sense, because it's like instead of inventing a solution, you're finding one in the room. Right, where it's like it's just it's much, again, I keep coming back to the word natural, unfortunately. I'm trying to expand beyond that, but on the plus side, it has this organic feeling where it's like I don't have to invent a solution now. I can just look around the room and I guess what I'm trying to say is that draws upon like rational conclusions, where it's like, hey, using your rat with the rope example, which is like, hey, this would be a thing, especially in adventure games, that could actually happen, or if it was me, stuck on an island with only these items, this is what I would do. So yeah, and then you kind of retroactively go and sow the seeds for those, and so you then build a thing earlier on in the game where you learn that the local rats will chew through anything. Right. People, you just add a few little bits of dialogue where people are going to go, oh, for God's sake, like you had a guy, at a shop, but he's eating a cheese sandwich, but it's not got any cheese in it. Why isn't your cheese sandwich got any cheese in it? Oh, well, the rat's eating all my cheese because and you go, oh right, okay, now I get it. The rats like the cheese in it, and you can just with a few little kind of comments and a few little conversations and things like that, you can very easily lay the groundwork for why that would make sense. Yeah, and I think one thing I'm learning, let's say through just even the beta testing phase, is how absolutely thrilled people are. Like, that's enough. I used to think that for the player to get the dopamine hit, like the big payoff, like, oh, I'm a genius, I figured it out. I used to think, I don't know, I thought that it would take more. But really, at the end of the day, if you signal like, hey, those local rats like to chew things, when the player gets to the rope and the rat chews it, like, they feel like a genius. They're like, ha! I knew it. I knew that. You see how I knew was because a few days ago they had said that rats chew through things, right? And
exactly.
I remembered that, and it's like, it really makes like a winner out of the player.
Yeah, definitely, because you're not telling them what to do at the time.
Right.
You're building this. You're building the
Planting
knowledge
seeds.
of that world, and then they can apply that knowledge of that universe when they get to the right point, because they kind of know the score about what that, yeah, it's like, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's sometimes a bit easier when you can go back and then retroactively kind of add those little kind of hints and clues in. And that's for me, that's one of the most fun parts as well, is, okay, I'll add a new dialogue option in. I will, I'll make it mandatory. So you have to have at least said that before you can do something else, or you can move on or something. Or not, but at least make it so it's accessible when you get to the puzzle, so you can go back and you can learn it, and you can go, hang on a minute, maybe I should just talk to this person a bit more, or something. But having then kind of tailoring the dialogue so that you're giving that hint just enough. And I this is one of the things I kind of like about a lot of the characters in Lucid Dreaming are kind of a bit sort of aloof. And they're not really, they're just kind of, yeah, whatever. And they're not really telling her stuff. They're just like, oh God, and this other thing that happened today. Yeah, but never mind. And it's just that sort of, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, there's a thing going on, but this, and just, or 2 or 3 different characters will mention about the fact that another character is, untrustworthy or is whatever, and you just pick up these little hints, but they just sound like kind of colourful stuff. They're not. They sound like they're irrelevant, but then actually you kind of go, oh yeah, they did say that, didn't they? And you leave that option there so people can kind of go again. It'll say it in a slightly different way, but it'll, it's getting that balance right is that's one of the things I really enjoy. Is like being able to write a single line of dialogue, which is maybe only 10 words or something like that, but it gives you the clue without you thinking that you're being given a clue. And that's one of the most fun bits for me, is writing that sort of, trying to get the balance right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got to rely on, if it's getting localized into different languages, you've got that's where having really, really good translators is absolutely paramount, because they've got to understand that the particular adjective or the particular verb that you've used there needs to be the same one.
Right.
That's used, when you say this is abrasive over here, and then she says, like, I need something to, well, no, maybe not abrasive, trying to think of a word, no, but I don't know how to say this. Yeah, anyway, I did have abrasive in there, but yeah. Anyway, but you use it basically saying something was abrasive over here, and I need something abrasive, or I need something that's going to abrade it, or whatever, whatever conjugating that verb would be. You'd end up making sure that they are the same word. Even though they are in the spreadsheet, they're miles away.
That's interesting. Right. It's almost like noting, like, hey, like these are like hand placed words, as
Yes.
Yeah. So like you can play it a little faster and looser with most of things, but
these are specific to the clues, or you need this to progress in the game. If it's not set in this context, or if this keyword isn't there in this same way, the player will get lost in the translation.
Yeah, because so often, especially when you've got kind of on-screen subtitles as well, the fact that like somebody is described as being, like frighteningly tall. And then you need to frighten somebody, and you go, well, you get them to go and talk to them because they are frighteningly tall. It's like you get that. Oh yeah, and it's like, oh well, they got hiccups. They need to be frightened. Oh okay, hang on a minute. I know someone who's frighteningly tall, and it's just having those right kind of verbs and adverbs and adjectives that just marry everything together. And I think a lot of people use those. Use those clues, and that I think they're a really kind of nice sort of subtle way of being able to kind of get people to kind of go, hang on a minute, that was especially if it's a slightly odd way of phrasing something or describing something, going to go, hang on a minute, that was a slightly straight, like,
right,
why would you describe the chicken as really acrid? Why would you do that unless there was some reason for it? And
always looking for clues in the environment and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got one in the game where it's like he says, we need to shed some light on it, and he's really trying to say, use the flashlight on this thing, and it works a treat. And it's another example, I guess, of something I thought was as I was, let's say, designing it, which feels generous, I thought it was maybe on the nose, and then come to find out it was actually in the pocket. It was actually like the right amount. Or so I
Yeah.
guess some of the experience that I'm picking up right now, way early in the game, is just it's make it a little easier than you think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is maybe what I'm trying to say. Like something like
Yeah,
that would
'cause
be a big payoff. They'd be like, "Ooh, shine some light on it," and like they don't feel like they were told what to do. In other words, and sometimes when you're designing it, it's like, "Am I just telling them what to do here?" Or
there will always be, there's such a spectrum. There will always be some people who go, "This is too hard, couldn't play it," and there'll be other people who say, "This was too easy."
Right.
It doesn't matter what you do. You cannot do unless you have easy, medium, and hard mode, and they are and hard mode is just ridiculous. You cannot accommodate everyone's if you're doing an adventure game and you're doing puzzles, there are some people who will just like rattle through it and go, "Yep, done."
Right.
And they pick up on all the clues that you put there because they know what to do. They seem to intuitively know what objects to click in a scene and which ones not to bother with.
Right.
How they do that, I don't know. I've watched some people play and it's like, how? But there's like 100 things in this scene, and you've literally just picked up the one thing that you need, and then you've just left. And he's like, there could have been so much you needed in there, and they seem to intuitively know. Whereas, some people will just like they'll walk around the first scene and go, don't know, and it's you're never going. You just need to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. Sometimes you can make it a little bit harder. Sometimes you make it a little bit easier, and at least then people will kind of go, well, at least there's a bit of variety, and they'll get a dopamine hit. Sometimes, and sometimes they have to work a little bit harder for it. And also, I always quite liked having. This is what was something that was quite nice about having the dream and reality worlds is that I had multiple sort of puzzles running along at the same time. So rather than kind of just being a linear, I mean, it is a fairly linear, story, but it's like you wouldn't necessarily go, right, I have to solve this bit before I can get to the next bit, and then I have to solve that before I get to the next bit. There will be 4 or 5 things that you have to, and in order to get to the next bit, you have to have all of those bits in place. But you don't necessarily. You can go, right. Well, let me just dive into a dream right now and see what I can do in there. Okay, I'm getting a bit stuck. Well, let me come back into the real world and see if anything. And so many people when they do that, and I've watched loads of people play it, they'll kind of come out and they'll go, right. Let me just go and have a look around. I want just to kind of go back to the town centre and do something, and then they'll kind of come out and go, oh, hang on a minute, hang on, I've just thought of something, and then they'll go back. So just that being able to have a couple of different things they can at least kind of achieve something somewhere. If they get stuck in one bit, they can nip to the other bit and they can kind of achieve something over here and then go back again. It kind of just keeps things kind of flowing nicely.
Right.
Exactly. Now, before we start to wrap things up, gosh, this is a fun conversation, though. I just want to announce, and then I'm going to get you to tell me all of the places we can get your stuff and everything else we need to know about what you're doing. But I want to say that Tom and Paul will both be on a Pixel panel together at the Adventure Game Fanfare in Tacoma in July. If you like this kind of banter, and I'm sure having a good time here, you're going to have to check it out because they're going to be talking about pixel art games and sort of dive a little bit deeper into the subjects that we've touched on today. So I'm super excited for this.
Same here. This episode is going to be our cheat sheet too. Now we'll know.
What did we say again? Let me just take some notes. These guys, they knew what they were talking about. But outside of that, Tom, please do tell me everything that we need to know about playing your games, what's upcoming, where to find what, and everything else you want the world to know.
Wow. Okay. Best things I'd say if you want to kind of follow what I'm doing or kind of chat to me, I've got I'm mainly on Twitter. I'm also on Mastodon and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and on all those channels I am Tool Story Games, all one word. So that's the best way to kind of find me on kind of socials. Also have a Discord channel. So Lucy Dreaming was my kind of first full-length game that was released back in 2022. If you go to lucy-dreaming.com, that's got all the links to kind of all my social channels, the Discord. You can kind of there's still links to kind of download the game and the demo, watch the trailers and all that sort of stuff on all the different platforms. It's on Steam, on GOG. on Nintendo Switch, Xbox, iOS, and Android. So plenty of places you can get that. The new game I'm working on is called Heir of the Dog. So it was based on a game jam game called Heir of the Dog. But the full game is actually called Heir of the Dog, as in like an heir to the throne. So it's Heir. And if you go to, you know what, I'm just going to double check because I'm pretty sure it's Heir of the Dog. So Heir of the dog.co.uk. And there are, again, links on there to everything. So there's links to the Discord, links to social media, links to kind of download and play the demo on Steam and GOG. And also, we are going to be running another Kickstarter campaign shortly as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm still kind of finalising the various kind of physical rewards that are going to be available in there. But we're going to be doing another kind of big box reward, and I've got plans for a double big box kind of reissue of Lucy Dreaming with the kind of new artwork for that as well. Cool. So that's the there's a link to on the website to kind of go and follow the campaign. So if you follow that, then you'll get an email notification as soon as the campaign goes live. And there'll be some early bird rewards as well. So the kind of sooner you can get those, you'll be able to get the kind of like a discounted version of the big box and stuff like that. So that's what I'm currently working towards the Kickstarter, and also obviously building the full game as I'm kind of going along. So yeah, I think that's me.
Awesome. Everyone, listen, we'll link Tom's stuff in the description as usual. So we'll make sure we get like Lucy Dreaming and Heir of the Dog in there, so you can just click on the things when Anna's done saying stuff she's about to.
Yeah, just click on the links. That's the easiest thing.
The best way. We're all good at clicking. We're talking about point and click games. It's the greatest direction to go. I also want to say thanks to some amazing people on Patreon that have clicked to be a true believer in the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. And in our True Believer tier, we have Brian Manown, Gareth, Mark Fillion, Michael Council, and Tim Ellis. Thank you, you guys, and everybody else. You support the show and make it possible for us to continue feeling like people out there care and want us to continue to do so. I want to give a little call to action here. We miss a ton of you. Since we lost Google Podcasts as a platform, we've lost about 25% of our automatic downloads. And I know you guys are still finding us out there and you're downloading, but it would mean a ton if you were enjoying the show, because you're still here, this far into the show, you must like it. So if you want to subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to, tell your friends, retweet our tweets, share the love, and just click things, put in reviews, and just boost us back up there again, because it's hard when you end up losing a whole platform. So let's find a new place for us all to kind of congregate and talk to each other in this virtual land. Outside of that, please do reach out and find us. These are the places where you can retweet us. We have brand new art to showcase the podcast. It's all neon and it's super cool. Go check it out. You can find us on Twitter at CGG Podcast or the Phantom Fellows. Email us at classicmail@classicgamersguild.com. You can join our page or our group on Facebook, Classic Gamers Guild. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube under the same name. Those are all the places you can find us and all of the cool podcast places. So go out there and show some love. We appreciate all of you.
And then don't do a murder.
And that's the first time I've shaved like my chin. And I just kind of give myself these mutton chops. And it's like, my chin has never felt so cold. It was just the weirdest thing. And it was it was strangely quite a big deal for me. And it's a face looking back at me in the mirror that I've not seen since I was kind of 18. And I wasn't particularly fond of it when I was 18, and I'm even less fond of it now. So as far as I'm concerned, it was really odd kind of doing that.
All of a sudden, like, your kids won't make eye contact with you anymore. They're like, it's just something.
Honestly,